Hey, welcome everybody to the Behind the
Hello.
Gate podcast. Okay, what was that? Who's doing
Huh?
the intro here? Who's doing the intro here?
You got it.
Okay, good. All
All
right,
right.
welcome.
Welcome, everybody.
Yeah, sure. So we're back with myself, Bryce, who specializes in riding probably the least famous person's coattails in the supercross industry, and AJ Catanzaro, who's the least famous supercross rider in the industry. Thanks for joining us. We're back. This is our second episode of our comeback, but we're not calling it a comeback because we're still pretty shitty. um, no, so we just had our next episode just recorded. It was pretty cool. We jumped right into some controversy with Christian Craig in that
Mm-hmm.
whole FIM decision, the banned substance. We delve into WADA. We delve into kind of the ridiculousness of that whole situation and similar situations. We talk about what the people want to hear, which is
How do you whip a dirt bike?
how do you whip a dirt bike? That is what we talked about. We spent a lot of
The
time
magic
talking
question.
about whipping a dirt bike, much to AJ's dismay. And before we go any further, before we get into it, this episode of the podcast is brought to you by the AJ Catanzaro Motocross Academy. I have a
Man,
T-shirt that
what a great
maybe I
guy.
should share. Maybe I should share that on social media. Remember the T-shirt that I made based off your T-shirt a few years ago? Happen to remember that one?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I do. It was a variation of the Motox Academy.
I should post that up on our Instagram.
but
Maybe.
but what a great
Um,
guy. I mean, he's just
oh, such a stellar example of a coach and of a person. He's got a great talent for broadcasting. Oh, you guys got to check out AJ Catanzaro's Motocross Academy. Please do it. Get over to his website, sign up for a class. I hear every once in a while he has like someone who's reasonably good at supercross and motocross to join him as
way
a
better than
guest.
him. But yep.
Way better. They never ride LCQs. I think one of the caveats when AJ goes out and finds his talent for the supporting guest instructor role, his caveat is please no LCQ entrants allowed.
Mm-hmm.
And and then I question how he might even know them. They're not riding the LCQ, but that's
Right.
neither
I
here
mean,
nor
because we all know, folks, LCQs, well, they're for losers. So,
there.
but otherwise, great guy. Very, very, very giving, sponsoring us for this episode. So check him out at ajcatanzaro.com. Get signed up for a school. I believe the next one you can get signed up for in the United States is in New York at Parker MX, which I hear is a pretty awesome track. That'll be August 17th. So check that out.
All right, everybody. You heard it here first. Check out AJ Catanzaro's Motocross Academy. And without further ado, we'll get into it. Thanks, everybody. Hey, buddy. What's going on, man?
Hello.
Oh, lots to talk about today, huh? I know we were texting a little bit before, but geez, where do we even start? I say that all the time, but there's just so much to go through.
I don't have notes either, so I really don't know where to start.
Well, for those listening, we got a lot to cover. We have obviously AJ just had an awesome weekend. I'm sure everybody was just waiting for some videos of whips because that's kind of your thing. We'll get into that. Where I kind of want to start really is because it just happened yesterday. It's fresh off the presses. Is the effing FIM and the Christian Craig nonsense. We talked about it
fill us in because I don't know a whole lot about it either, other than
okay.
I read his post. That's basically all I know.
Okay. So for those who don't know, Christian Craig has been the latest victim of the FIM judgment hammer, basically, for banned substances. What do you get? Well, let's roll it back. So we've talked about on the show before a few individuals in the sport who have gotten clipped by either WADA or subsequently by the FIM and punishments levied against them for any number of reasons. You could go down the list. I mean, probably the most notable, James Stewart, that whole Adderall issue. Brock Tickle, who was just coming off of suspension. He'll be eligible to ride. I think he's actually eligible now. So we should see him in Supercross 2020. Cade Clayson, also another victim. Also just got cleared. He should be riding. I think he's riding
Yep.
now, right? And will be riding 2020 Supercross. And now Christian Craig. So what happened, as far as I know, with Christian Craig, in March of 2018. So we have to go back, not last Supercross season, but the Supercross season before that.
Yeah, that's
He
what's
got,
crazy.
it is crazy. We're going to get into it. So he got a random drug test. You know, I don't know how they do it. Maybe you can speak to that. I'm not sure if you ever had one, but
No, but when
random
you come
drug
off the
test.
main event, I'm pretty sure they pull you.
Right.
Like
So it's
as soon
completely
as you're coming
random.
off
It
the
doesn't.
track. Yeah, either that or the top guys are on a list where they can be tested at any time. So
Right.
somebody could show up at their house, somebody could show up when they're, out to dinner and say, "Hey, we're doing this."
Yep. Yep. And so we'll stick to the facts here. So 2018, March 2018, he gets tested, something pops. What that is, nobody can really determine. It's on the banned substance list. I'm not sure the chemical name. It's off the top of my head. But what it was essentially was like a low blood pressure medicine. So what it does is speed up your heart rate or make your heart pump harder, faster, what have you. And so I don't know if they're considering it a performance enhancing substance, whatever it is, who cares? It's on the banned substance list for WADA. That comes up. Now, Christian Craig appeals. He says, no way, it's not possible. Why would I ever take this? This is not something I would ever take. He appeals the decision or the finding. They provide a mountain of evidence as to what he was on as far as supplementation, what he was taking, what his program was. Go down the list of things you could possibly do to support him not taking it, and they did it. Now, what's a pain in the ass about this whole thing, I should have brought this up before, was from when he got tested to when he found out that there was a positive result for something banned, that was a 10-month span. So March 2018, he got tested, and he didn't find out that he got banned or something was banned in his system until May. Was it May of 2019? So 10 months or longer. And that's when he found out. Actually, let me take that back. It wasn't May. It was 10 months from March, but he did the whole appeal process. So he found out 10 months later, then he did the whole appeal process, and then it came out into the public. So I don't think we heard about it until May or June, but he found out 10 months after the test. Okay. So he has a banned substance. They do all of their appeal process to try to prove it wrong, all the evidence that they could possibly compile, what his program was, what the substance is, what his supplementations were, everything. We find out yesterday that after the whole appeal process, the FIM decides to levy a suspension against Christian Craig for a 2-year period from the date of the test. Now, it's so stupid. The average person hearing this is like, well, when does that come into effect? It goes back to the 2018 test date of March 2018, 2 years from that date. Now, granted, he didn't even know about it until 10 months after that, so it doesn't make any sense. So he's not eligible to ride until March 2020. And in the meantime, all of the events that he has raced up until that time will be canceled out of his record. All of the results are wiped as far as official results are concerned, and c'est la vie with the FIM. What they decided in their judgment was they acknowledged that he did not knowingly take a banned substance, but it was his negligence for not doing his due diligence in knowing exactly what was in every single one of his supplements That's why they decided to levy a suspension. It wasn't like somebody willingly trying to get a performance enhancing drug into their system to gain a level up on the competition. It was, oh, you didn't investigate every single thing you were putting into your body to our satisfaction, so suspension.
Which, by the way, is pretty much impossible unless you have somebody test it. Like, I almost even feel like supplements I'm taking on a regular basis, you never know if something could be tainted with a small amount.
Well, this
right?
is the crazy
I don't
thing,
know
and I
enough
know
about it.
I don't mean to monopolize the conversation here. That was a long-winded explanation for those people who didn't know about it. But this is what's so freaking insane about these decisions and WADA and the banned substance list is that's their judgment, really? That you didn't do your due diligence in discovering every single thing in a supplement. I mean, case in point, especially if you get supplements that aren't 100% pure. And what I mean by that is you know exactly where they're coming from, they're organic, whatever. And I'm not like one of these hippie organic only people, but you get stuff from GNC, you don't know what the manufacturing process is behind it. You get stuff on
Right.
Amazon. Amazon's a huge culprit for having knockoff supplements. So whether it's like some Chinese company putting some private label on something, whatever the case may be, like if you don't know the source of it, there's been examples all over the place with contamination, and not just in WADA. I mean, heavy metal contamination, arsenic, lead, stuff like this getting into supplements that might be banned or might even be a health risk. So it's just crazy that they can, without really any way for these guys to appeal it in any effective manner whatsoever. I've never heard of somebody popping for a substance and then nothing happening. It seems like they always try to go with the maximum punishment.
I guess the only good news is that at least they did 2 years from where the test date was. So March 2020, if you did East Coast, if it weren't for the Supercross schedule being all wacky and having St. Louis as the second round, he'll be able to make a good amount of the East Coast rounds.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, that is a good point. That is. I think it's just the most important, significant thing for me is the message that it sends to everybody. And maybe that's really their point in that, is to crack down on people just kind of taking whatever. I really don't know. I think it's absurd. There's things that are obvious, right, AJ? I mean, there's things that are obvious you shouldn't be taking. Obviously, like DEA banned substances, like hard drugs, whatever. You can, and I'm not giving you my opinion on whether you should be able to smoke weed or not. That's something different. But if there's like a true banned list, whether they're federally illegal drugs or they're truly performance enhancing, where you're gaining an advantage over the competition, if there's a very concise list and people know to avoid them, that's one thing. But to be nitpicky about these little compounds here and there that maybe even the analysis in the labs haven't even caught up to how it all plays out in the body. Because as we've talked about before on the show, it's not even necessarily that you're testing for a substance, but they're testing for a metabolite of that substance. So if you've ingested something, whatever your body does to break that down, they're testing for the evidence of that breakdown. So it sounds very scientific and black and white. Oh, we received a positive result for a banned substance. But there is a gray area, especially with stuff like this that, I mean, who the hell knows what that is? You're not gaining a performance advantage, And I bet you that if you put every single one of the, let's call it 40 guys in Supercross on Saturday night, if you went down the list, put them all against the wall and said, "Do you care that Christian Craig did this?" Every single one of them would say no. So, would you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, based on the evidence, I would probably say that I agree with that. I mean,
okay, let me ask you
just
this.
feel
As
bad.
a professional Supercross rider who at some point could race Christian Craig, do you believe that he's received did this to gain a performance advantage over you?
No. No.
How many people do you think would say that he did?
Zero. People that race that know,
Yeah.
I would say probably zero.
Okay. So, and I don't disagree, but that's my point. Is what is the banned substance list for? Like, who is it for? What is it designed to do? That's my biggest problem with the whole thing.
That if there's somebody doing it, if there's somebody at the top level that's doing it, I think they're going to be doing it in a way that there's no way they're going to get caught. I don't know if that's possible. I'm sure it is. I don't think they would be careless enough to get caught if that were the case. I don't. I don't know. Who knows if somebody is or not? I would say most likely not. Especially somebody like Christian Craig, where if it just popped up randomly like that, and somebody like Brock Tickle, I kind of feel as if that was the same situation. With Cade, same situation. James Stewart's was Adderall. I mean,
so yeah. I think Cade Clayson is an excellent example, and we've had Cade on the show. We didn't talk about his case in detail per his request. It was at the time still pending, so he didn't want to get any perceptions out there that were inaccurate, or he didn't want to disclose too much. We should get him back on and talk about this now that he's cleared and we see another example of it. So we'll reach out to Cade maybe, but he's a good example because he's I forgot what was the thing that he got clipped for. You remember?
Cade? I thought it might have been Adderall too.
No, I don't remember. It was something like arbitrary.
I'm pretty sure because it had to do with it was something he could have got a TUE for, a therapeutic use exemption, just like Stewart, and that was his situation. Like they had filled out paperwork or something, but it wasn't properly approved. Both of their situations, I think, were very similar.
Gotcha. So what I'm about to say, I mean absolutely no disrespect to Cade whatsoever. But my point is, I feel like the gap between like a James Stewart and Cade Clayson is, how do I want to say this? I think there's more at stake, more on the line for the guys at the very top to receive like an incremental bump in performance by these things than the guys closer to, I'm reluctant to say the bottom, but you know what I mean? So when you're on a factory team, you're a huge household name and there's so much pressure to win. You might have a better case that the little tiny things that you could somehow sneak into your diet to give you some sort of performance enhancing benefit, the risk reward is probably there. But to levy a suspension against Cade Clayson for such a mundane thing that can clearly be demonstrated is in some sort of therapeutic or medically necessary thing. The whole thing, I might be talking in circles here. I don't even know.
Bottom line is I think that testing should be a thing, but I think that the punishment for the testing just has to be an in-house process where the AMA is making the decision so that it can be dealt with quickly, and that's that. I mean, the fact that we're having to go through, whether it's WADA or FIM, and these poor people are waiting a year to hear anything and waiting months at a time before they get an email response or call back, that's a joke.
100%. The thing that bothers me the most is the ambiguity of what's on that list and how it affects performance, really. You know, what is that list? There's things on there that, and off the top of my head, I don't have any specific examples. I could pull them up if you want. Hey, everybody, Google it if you want to. But there's stuff on this that a lot of people could accidentally take, whether it's from supplementation or elsewhere. I mean, you know, it's too ambiguous and it has too much consequence. I mean, we're talking about a factory or a Geico Honda rider. What is Honda going to do now? They have to find a fill-in. Well, who's that going to be? How does that affect Christian Craig coming back? There's a lot at stake. There's a lot of money. There's a lot of reputation. I mean, it's big business, and there's too much at stake for it to be so ambiguous, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I wish Christian good luck with it. From what I know, he did one of my schools. I haven't spent a whole lot of time around him, but the times that I've been around him, he seems awesome. I mean, he's a family man. He's got a couple kids. What people tend to forget sometimes is that these aren't just people that are on TV that they're watching. This is their livelihood as well, especially for somebody like that. So at least it's just March 2020. I think it's ridiculous. Yeah, of course, but could have been worse. I think Cade got it a lot worse. He didn't even race a dirt bike in the United States for about 2 full years. So Christian is now he's out for the rest of the outdoors, right? Is that how it's going to work?
Yep. Yeah, I don't think he's eligible to race in an FIM sanctioned event until that date, March 2020, March 4th, something like that. So let me ask you this question. How does it work with like the results? So one of the parts of the punishment is that any result that Christian Craig attained officially from the time he got tested and hit a positive to now is expunged. I mean,
I don't think that really matters. It's not like if he had a podium in Supercross in that time period that.
Well, do we know like how? So okay, so you officially on paper in the record books, Christian Craig doesn't have any results, but like they're not coming back for purse money or anything like that. You happen to know?
That's a good question. I don't know. I would say definitely not sponsor bonus money, which is where he's getting all of his money anyways.
No, I agree.
I don't know. It's a good question. That is a good
I'd be
question.
interested in that.
Because I was going to say that wouldn't be a very significant amount of money, but if you added up every race from the AMA payouts,
for a year,
that would actually be a good chunk. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, it's super weird, man. Super weird. Well, now we got the dramatic stuff out of the way.
What do you want to chat about? What do we? I got some.
Well, I know everybody's interested in. Yeah. Let's hear the cool stories. I was looking for some more hype videos about this whip contest. I didn't see a single one. Where are they? Damn it!
Do you know Zach Romano?
No.
You don't? So
think so.
Zach was there filming. He showed up super late, but he caught pretty much the whole night of the whip. So he wasn't there during the day. He just missed the pit bike race, which I'll tell you guys about that in a minute, and it was hilarious. But he got most of the whip stuff. He said that it's not the greatest footage because it was nighttime, and he said it was just difficult to film in that lighting. But I think it could still be pretty good. He's like he knows what he's doing. So I think even if he says it's not great, to us, it's probably pretty good.
Okay, so who won?
Who won? Oh, Patrick Evans. So and I've known Patrick for a while. He actually filmed me a bunch in 2015. And when he filmed me then, I didn't even know he rode. Had no idea.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's a video on YouTube of us like doing a tour of the litter box and stuff like that. And Patrick was the one who actually filmed that. Had no idea he rode. He's been putting up videos the past year and a half or so on his Instagram. And I knew going into this that I'm like, okay, he does ride and he's pretty darn good. So he was there. He was one of the threats. Dakotas was there. Kevin Hill, who's a local rider. He's actually, I think, done 1 or 2 of my classes, which I thought was pretty cool. And then the other Jonesboro guys, I think, Jake Abbott, Dan Leclerc, Nick Batten did it. There's a couple freestyle guys, Michaud, or I think it's the owner's brother or the owner's something. But there's a couple heavy hitters. I thought I had a good chance of battling for second or third. I knew that based on the practice day. So Friday we had a couple hours to hit the ramp. which I was terrified because I haven't hit a ramp in a long time. The ramps that I have hit were by no means like regulation or legit, where this setup was like freestyle. It was the ramp was legit. It was 75 feet, which is standard length. So if you've hit it 15 times, you could do it blindfolded because it is anywhere you go. I mean, the landing should be a certain height, I believe. All of it's, people say like Supercross triples are regulation, but they're not. They're different everywhere you go because the pitch of the takeoff is different. So you never really know, but a freestyle ramp, like you could do it in your sleep once you've done it. So most of these guys, with the exception of me and Dakotas, didn't have much time on these ramps at all, or zero time. Are you getting any feedback? I'm getting an echo on my end.
No, I hear you fine.
Okay. So I showed up and we get all geared up. We go out there and I do like one pass next to the ramp. And I told everybody, I'm like, all right, I'm scared. I'm like, all right, I got arm pump already. And I haven't started riding. Turn around, come back in, second gear. Patrick just basically said, come up to the ramp with 0 speed at all. And when you get to the bottom of the ramp, just gas it. So I followed his advice. Basically, my heart sank until I was halfway in the air, like at the top of my jump. And then I knew I was fine. And I did like a no footer, then a one hander, and then like a 1 foot. Like you have so much time in the air. It's pretty funny. So I pure panic, boner air. And then once I realized I was fine, I did a couple tricks. Next time around, very next jump, I was able to do a little whip. And then from there, I was fine. The biggest struggle with me is, and people always ask how to whip. So I guess I will explain a little bit here. Where people do it different ways. But for me, when I do a whip, it's all about getting maximum traction off the takeoff. So I actually will aim the bike to go up and away as if I'm basically trying to do like a barrel roll. And when you go up and away, just the way it comes around, it makes it really easy to get the whip around. There's a lot of people that rely on sliding up the face. But
or
that's
carving,
a little,
right?
Yeah, well, I carve, but I carve and get traction. There are some people that like slide the back end right out up the face, and those whips, you can do them pretty big sometimes, but super hard to be consistent with that. So on the ramp,
how much sliding can you do on the ramp?
No, none.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
which for me is good, but what's scary is that you realize how much you can start to lean the bike over, and you will never ever slide out.
Right.
So for me, I was just playing a game. Basically, the way I can compare it is like when I get on a street bike and I'm on the road, I don't trust how much that those tires can take and how much lean angle you could get. It took me the whole time. It took me Friday. It took me all of Saturday to realize that I could lean more and more and more and more. And by that time, basically the event was over. I think I threw 2 or 3 whips that I personally was happy with. The other ones, like, they were fine. They were plenty big, but they just, to me, they didn't feel right.
Any oppos?
No. So that is why Patrick right away I was naming as the favorite, because Patrick could do like an oppo whip both directions. He could do an old school style whip both directions, and he could do like a turn up style whip like the Axel Hodges ones both directions. So he had every type of whip covered. He could do fender grab whips. He had a bunch of variation, which is what the judges were technically supposed to be judging on. Kevin Hill had one massive whip to the left. He was on a 250F and he was just jumping it basically to the flat every single time. They were scaring the crap out of me every single time, but he was landing them pretty straight. They sounded out of control because he was holding it wide open, but it looked like it was something that was repeatable for him. But he had 0 variation as well. Dakota's 0 variation. He could only whip to the right, but he was getting better and better. He had a couple the night of the show that were massive. He kept trying to go the other way, but he gave up on it. And then come Saturday, he aborted mission and just only went to the right. I tried a couple oppos on Friday, but it's something that I would have to take like probably a whole day and really practice, because with those being on a ramp and having that much airtime, if you half-ass it and kind of only go a little bit out on an oppo, what happens is the natural way it comes back, you'll go too far the other direction back. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I hear you.
So
I
you'll
mean,
do
when's
like
the
a
last time
double whip.
you used to have a lot of whip videos and oppo whips. I haven't seen you do an oppo whip in a while. When was the last time you did?
I haven't done a whip, like even a whip in what feels like a couple years. I haven't done an Oppo whip probably since 2014.
Club
Just
MX.
because I just because I only ride Supercross, and on Supercross there's nothing that is big enough really that you're either taking off in ruts. Stuff's just gnarly. You can't really do anything that big. Um, yeah, so I had to almost relearn how to do a big whip all over again because back in the day, that was almost what I was known for at one point. I was good at scrubbing. I was good at whipping, but it's been so long. Um, but the Oppo whips were scary, and I didn't have time. I only really had time to learn both direction normal whips, so that was what I stuck with. I had a couple variations. I could take off the ramp with one hand and do a pretty big whip to the right. I could do pretty good fender grab, like grab the rear fender, whips to the left. I could do big one-footed whips to the left, like look back whips. So realistically, and before the competition, we kind of knew where we were going to stack up. So we thought for sure that Patrick would win. We were pretty sure just based on the wow factor that Kevin Hill would get second, which he did. Even though he only had one direction, a couple of them that he would throw were just so crazy looking and sounding that we're like, all right, just for wow factor alone, he'll get second. And then everyone pretty much knew that Jimmy and myself would be battling for third, but it's a Jonesboro event. Mike Satilli, a bunch of Jimmy's buddies were the judges. Like, I'm not going to get third, obviously. So I knew that going in. And I didn't care. It was just fun. I mean, all those guys were super fun to just session with. We were going off the ramp, just run and train, like back to forth.
Run and train.
A couple of people I was afraid to follow. Like Patrick kept telling me, "Don't go behind me." So
Why?
that was
Because
a
he
little
thought
scary.
he was gonna bail.
Yeah, because apparently he wasn't too confident with like his turn down whips.
Okay.
Although he looked fine to me, but he said they're just the scariest thing ever. So he kept just saying, "Don't ride behind me." But like me and Jimmy, a couple times we would be on the ramp together on the takeoff ramp, like wheel to wheel. So that was fun. Huge crowd. It was awesome. I mean, I want to do it more often. I'll definitely be there next year. I think the payout for the top three was pretty good. For the win, maybe it was 1,500 or $2,000, something like that. I'm not sure.
Not a bad little bonus.
No,
You would
not
have
at
done it
all.
for free, I'm sure.
Oh, I did do it for free, and yeah. I made good money on the weekend anyway. I did my class on Friday with Dakotas. Jimmy, by the way, did an amazing job. Of all the guest instructors I've had, Jimmy was right up there with the best. And in fact, a couple of the riders
You say that about all of them. You really do.
Yeah,
but I think it goes to show like how nice of guys these guys are and how willing they are to teach and spread the craft.
The biggest thing with Jimmy, a lot of these guys have been extremely personable, which is great, and that's like the first step. And the kids just, that's what they want. They want somebody to pat them on the back, give them a thumbs up, and just be like, good job. That means a lot to 99% of the people out there. What Jimmy was good at, and I think he's had experience doing a couple of these classes even on his own, is he was pretty good at getting the information across. Like him and I were gelling. We were on the same page. Like anytime I would say something, he would be right there to back it up. It was actually really fun. I could see myself doing a bunch with Jimmy. We had like 35 riders, so we were sold out. The one thing that was hard is it was, I'd say, it was like a slower class. So it was basically all of them were woods riders, which is fine, but there was a lot of little kids. So we were dealing with kind of slower people on a motocross track in general, and then a lot of like really, really little kids.
Gotcha.
So it just made it a little tricky, and we had to dumb it down maybe a little bit more than normal. But my experience having classes, I think that's one thing I pride myself on is I could have basically a pro rider there and have somebody on a PW50, and usually it's fine.
Right.
So that was fun. That was all on Friday. And then after the class on Friday, we practiced the ramp for like 45 minutes. And then Saturday, I watched the J-Day all day, which I didn't get a chance to talk to John Day, the guy that runs it, but made my rounds the whole day. I do. And I wanted to race it that day, sort of. I had about 20 people offer for me to ride their bikes.
I've been after you to ride a J Day for years. They'd be awesome. I also
I
think
don't
it'd be
know.
hilarious to see you race in the woods.
Oh, I think I would have had a blast. And after I walked the trail, so I walked a lap through the trail about halfway through the day. I was kind of wishing that I did. If I had my the plan was to pick up my KDX 200 and go and race on the KDX, which would have been hilarious. I just didn't have room for it in the truck. And then once I got there, they were practicing the ramp periodically throughout the day, and I wanted to get as much time on the ramp as I could. But I will say that it seemed wicked fun. I definitely will do one in the future. And all it made me realize is that everything I teach is almost more applicable in the woods than it is on the motocross track. As I was walking the trail and watching these people make mistakes and come through, and the guys that were doing it right, everything I teach, the guys that were doing it right, they were doing. The guys that were doing it wrong and making mistakes, they were making the same mistakes the guys in motocross make, using the clutch too much, dragging the rear brake way too late. Like in a lot of situations, there was like a 3/4 mile. I think they said it was 3/4 mile. It was like long, maybe it was a 1/4 mile, a long straightaway into a tight right-hand 90-degree turn straight up a hill climb. So basically you're hauling butt down the straightaway, and then you have to properly brake, get slowed down to probably first or second gear, and go up this straight up hill climb. And what you notice with people coming in is they come in way too fast, they panic, and then they pull the clutch in, and they just basically skid right past the turn.
Yep.
And they drag in the rear brake too late. The guys that were doing it right were the ones that were getting their downshifts, not using their clutch, getting off of the rear brake nice and early, and able to actually take the turn. So everything I teach, I was watching it kind of play out in the woods. I'm like, all right, this is pretty awesome. Standing up in the attack position that I teach, if anything in the woods, it's more important. You could just, in the woods section, you just stand up essentially the whole time.
How woodsy was this J Day? I know some are a little more woodsy than motocrossy and vice versa. How was this one?
It was woodsy. It was like single track ish.
I saw some of the preview videos, and it looked like a pretty darn good circuit.
What I pictured, I didn't know if like they took like a skid steer and straight up just plowed like a 5 foot in width trail through the woods, but it was woodsy. I mean, you had a creek crossing, there's trees. There's lots of trees out there. You had roots.
Generally, there is in woods riding. Yeah.
Yep. You had lots of features that you would see in the typical forest. And then when you come out of the forest, the motocross section was actually pretty technical too. You had like a big step up. You had a tabletop step down that was pretty large. You had like a kind of a rhythm section. It was a table to single and then a double out, which I didn't see anybody jump. The hard part here, and what I think is really cool, is you don't get practice. I don't know if that's normal for like a woods race. You can walk the track the day before the event or the morning of, and then you have two 30-minute motos. So you have to go out basically blind to it, and especially, in the woods, it's one thing. You kind of take that first lap and figure things out as you go. But on the motocross track, there was a couple big jumps that you just have to hit first lap.
Yep. That's what always like racked my brain is you almost need aftermarket suspension or a really good suspension tune to race a J Day, to race it well and fast. You rode my KTM. That thing was so soft, but because I rode all woods, and the thing was impeccable in the woods and the trail over rocks, roots, all the stuff in New England that we battle. You brought it on a motocross track. You did any jumping with that thing, and it was just like ridiculous. I mean, you rode it. You were like, this thing is unsafe as hell, but in the woods, it's spectacular. So that's always like the balance between getting it right for the woods and getting it to be able to eat up the motocross sections too. That's tricky.
Yeah, I think if I were a J-Day racer, I would set up 100% for the woods, and then the track, I would just salvage what I could. Because soft suspension like that is going to be good for the turns and everywhere else on the moto track. And then on the jumps, you could scrub the jumps and not even jump them, and you're only going to lose a second a lap. You know, like it's not a big deal. It's not like you're dealing with
There's more.
Supercross whoops or.
There's definitely more time to be made up by being technically precise in the woods, for sure. I think.
Right. Yeah, I didn't get a chance to really watch any of the fast guys. I watched like the last lap of the AA, and Ben Kelly, I think is his name, on a KTM. He was literally like 2.5
he rides
minutes
for
ahead of everybody else.
He rides for. Does he ride for Red Bull KTM, or he's out of Connecticut?
I don't know if he rides for Red Bull KTM or not. But he
just came up in conversation actually, because when I was with John Mayer. I mean, he's a super fast woods and enduro guy. He was just talking to me about him. I forgot what we were talking about, but he came up, and some other kid from Connecticut who does ride on Red Bull KTM,
which I think Josh Toth. I rode with him at Southwick when I did that Max's test day. I'm pretty sure he's from Connecticut, and he definitely rides for Red Bull KTM, but he does, or used to do J-Day events, might still do some of them. These dudes are no joke. The thing I was most curious about is if I went out there, I was trying to figure out where I would have ended up. It's hard to say. I don't have. Are you getting feedback again?
Nope.
I'm getting some feedback from you. What do you got going on over there?
How about now? I have my cell phone in my hand. I'm looking up something.
It's good now.
Okay. Continue.
Don't know what I was talking about. Anyways, that was fun. Didn't end up racing it. And then we had a pit bike race. So at I heard it was at 5:30. So at about 4:30, I asked a couple kids that were walking around if anybody knew of a pit bike I could ride. Sure enough, somebody comes riding over on a TTR 110 and makes a delivery of a pit bike for me. Thing was falling apart, which was pretty hilarious. Like the start button is just dangling by a zip tie. The exhaust was falling off, which was good. So I didn't really feel badly about riding this thing because it was just totally beat to crap. But I'm like, all right, cool. I get fully geared up, which there was a ton of people just wearing sneakers and board shorts and stuff like that. I'm like, all right, this is the time when you get hurt doing something stupid. So I'm just going to fully gear up just to be safe, which all those guys were making fun of me because I had boots and knee braces and the whole deal on. But I'm like, listen, I'm not getting hurt doing this stupid thing.
Yeah, can never be too safe.
And it was a blast. So Travis Stewart, who was actually one of the original guys at Vermoto, he was there announcing. Hilarious, by the way. Everything he was saying was cracking me up. And then at one point he goes, I'm sitting on the fence line and he's standing right kind of in front of me announcing. And he goes, all right, so heat races are about to wrap up. If you're not in the top 4, we're taking alternates, just the top 5. The 5th place guy is an alternate. But we're not doing LCQs. Well, and he goes, well, because LCQs are for losers. And I throw my hands up and I'm like, come on.
Oh, that's your bread and butter right there, LCQ.
Yeah, man. I actually made it straight through the heat in the pick bike race. I got last gate pick. So I came from basically dead last to second in the heat. And then in the main event, so on a pit bike without a clutch, what you do is you put it in neutral, or this is what I did. And then you hold the shift lever up and just hold it there with your foot when you're stopped, and you can rev the bike. And it's basically, it creates a neutral, but you're kind of in gear. Who knows if it's bad for the bike or not.
Oh,
but
it's horrible for the bike.
When you let go, the thing just launches out. So I tried to do it. In the heat race, I did it and basically looped out. I think I was running behind the bike. And then in the main event, I did it and then it just dropped down into neutral. So then I had to reach down, put it into gear. Everybody was gone at that point. And then what I did is I waited for a couple of the people to come around, and then I just started stuffing people in a turn. So this one little kid riding a CRF 110 or whatever it was, I just kept like 2 laps in a row. I'm just stuffing him in every turn. And then I would leave the door open and wait for him to come stuff me. It was actually really fun. So after this weekend, I realized 2 things. One, I'm going to buy a ramp. And 2, I need to buy a pit bike.
Okay. Well, I think I totally support that. I think 2 things. One, you race a J Day, and I'm gonna race it with you. And I really I'm interested to see how much faster I am than you in the woods.
What class
Which I
could
know.
you do? Do you think we could do the
Oh,
same class?
dude. You don't want a sandbag? I don't know.
They
I don't know.
they all told me I needed to do the AA class, which I think you could get away
I'm
with
not.
probably doing
Yeah. I'm,
double A.
no. No. I
Oh.
wouldn't race double A. Those guys are so legit.
Yeah, I think I
Maybe.
underestimate how fast that they're going actually through the woods.
What through the woods? Through the woods. That's. I could never race double A in the woods. My buddy John raced double A. He's fast. He also raced on the international 6-day enduro team for Team USA several times.
Does he do J days or anything? Or
he does a lot of hair scrambles. He just rode an enduro. I think he has done J days. I don't know, but I just looked on Strava. So when I rode with John and I went mountain biking on Thursday of last week, and we were talking about Strava, and it's funny because we both kind of had the same perception of like how Strava makes you want to ride, like even when you don't want to, because you get so fixated on like other people riding, and it's like that intrinsic competitiveness that you're just like, shit, like I guess I need to go put some miles in today even if I don't want to, or whatever, which I thought was hysterical that we were on the same page with that. And I think everybody uses Strava is the same way. It's like, damn, like I find myself sacrificing mountain bike rides to get on the road just to like get miles in, even though I'd rather mountain bike. I just want, for some reason, the miles on my freaking profile is what drives me.
see,
But
I have
was,
my hours on top of that, so I don't get
yeah.
discouraged
See, you
by
can,
miles.
yeah. I should do that too, because like I love road riding, but mountain biking is where my heart is, man. And so, but I just looked on Strava because it was Ben Kelly that he was talking about. Ben Kelly, he rides like West Hartford Reservoir. He rides all the local spots. And John was telling me how he was down at Baker's Factory, I think pretty recently. I can't remember exactly what he said, but he was telling John like how ridiculous that training is. It's like 2 weeks.
Really?
And yes. There's just next level. And he's like, no wonder why those guys are always on top. Like, no, think about the 450 class champions. They've all been Alan Baker people, every single one for since Villapoto. Maybe even before that, but yeah, he was talking, because we had a conversation about Baker's Factory, you know what I mean? And he said Ben Kelly had ridden there, but then we were starting talking about the different places where he rides and how he just goes out, and it's one of those guys who's just next level. He's just so fast on a bike. He'll just go out and just grab all the top 10s everywhere he rides, no matter what. Kind of like you were like 3 or 4 years ago. You know what I mean?
When I used to be fast, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember those days.
Me too.
I remember those days.
I long for those days.
I did a road bike ride yesterday. I feel like it was my first bike ride in a while. It hurt. I went wicked slow. It was weird. I don't know if you get this. Like, sometimes I get in a situation on the road bike where my heart rate will not go up because I physically can't get my body to even work hard enough to get my heart rate up. But I'm struggling the whole time. Like, I did 41 miles yesterday, and the whole time I was just struggling.
I do find that sometimes, like in that ride that I did the other day, the 41 miles, whatever, the first like 20 minutes or so, I just felt like shit, dude. Like I couldn't get into it. It was early in the morning. I hadn't put in a decent ride in a while, and I was like dragging. I don't know what it was, but speaking to that exact point you just said, I looked down and my heart rate was like 112, 118, which is super low for how I felt. And I was like, there was one point I was like, dude, am I blacking out right now? I felt like my heart was literally not working right.
Yeah, that was kind of where I was at. I'm looking down and I'm like, okay, this is weird. Like 120, 125, but I'm like at my limit. I'm like, this isn't right.
Yeah, it's weird that you just experienced that too, because I came back and I was like, Jen, I told my wife, I was like, I think I'm like dying because I
Do
swear
you
I was
think
like
it's a
blacking
leg issue? Like, because I did notice, like,
out.
at the end of the ride, my legs were sore, and usually I could hit that ride at like 20 to 21 mile an hour average and get done
Well,
and be totally fine.
where in the ride were you when you started feeling that? Mine was right at the beginning, and like once I really warmed up, it went away. So where were you in the ride when that happened?
Like half a mile in, and it continued. I would say maybe at the 20-mile mark, I felt okay for about 5 miles, and then it came back because then I was drinking a ton of I had electrolyte powder in my
Mm-hmm.
water, and I went a little overboard with it because it was hot. So then now my mouth's drying out, my water runs out completely, and that's when I started to feel even worse. And I was like, oh, okay, just get me home.
These are the times I really wish I had like a muscle physiologist or like a legit trainer to ask these questions to, because yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would want to know, like, is it a function of diet? Like, I definitely was calorie deprived. There was no way. I mean, that ride I burned over 2,000 calories. There's no way that I had enough calories in my body. So that's a problem. I didn't eat a lot before the ride, so I was probably like glycogen deprived and didn't have enough sugar in me. And I mean, you know me, I'm super sugar and carbohydrate dependent. So if I'm like, and that's to a fault. Like, I'm not saying that's a good thing, but it's the reality. So when I go out and I don't have those carbs and sugars in me, like, I bonk hard. And
Uh-huh.
I had I had some nutrition with me, and I kept eating what I could. But yeah, I want to know. We've talked about this a lot. It's like, what is it about some of those days where you just go out, and this is on bicycle, this is motocross, this is supercross, this is
I
anything
notice it
physical.
mostly on bicycle though. Because I will say, and I was just gonna say this, on the dirt bike, I can push through that feeling, and
Because I
it
think
doesn't
there's more
affect
to
me as
this.
much.
You know why I think this is just a theory, but I think there's more to distract you on a dirt bike. It's in
Oh, for
road
sure.
bike is the worst. Road biking is the absolute worst. I bonk on a road bike hard. And a lot of people in this, I know it's sketchy to ride with headphones in, traffic, all that. I know that, but I cannot go out by myself and just listen to my bike making noise in traffic. I can't do it. The mental aspect of the monotony of riding on the road kills me. I find I can
Yeah,
push
it's
through
tough.
way harder on a mountain bike when there's like stuff coming at you. You got to kind of use your brain elsewhere to like pick lines, and you're not focusing all your attention about how much physical pain you're in. So I think that's the hard part about road biking. Dirt biking, you know, multiply that out by 100. You have
Right.
you're riding fast. You have all kinds of variables coming at you. You're planning your next move way in advance. There's so much more that's going on. You're distracted by like the physical output. That's what I think.
I agree. Yeah, because on the road bike, when things start going bad, especially for me, I'm at least, you're on the road, so you deal with like the danger factor of cars coming by and you have some more things going on. For me, I'm on the WOD, which is a bike path that I never leave. So I'm on a bike path. Basically, I don't even have to look up. The only reason I have to look up every once in a while is to make sure I'm not going to run in the back of somebody or make sure there's not a deer running across the path, which happened like 4 times yesterday. But what I'll do a lot of times to just get more aero and to, like, so my neck feels better is I'll just kind of look down right next to my handlebars and I'll just follow the yellow line for 5, 6, 7 seconds, and then peek up for a second. I'll look back down. And when you get in the
That's it.
zone of like hating life, I'm just staring at my Garmin GPS on my bars and I'm just watching my wattage and watching the time and the miles slowly tick by. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a nightmare.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's what it is. It's the monotony, I think, and that's part of like the mental battle too, in trying to distract yourself really from the monotony of it. That's I do find that road biking is the absolute worst for that,
Yeah.
because
And
there's
I don't listen
nothing
to
to take your
music.
mind off of.
You're just sitting there like, oh man.
Yep. Yeah.
But
So
I think
every
it's good.
little
Make you
thing
mentally strong.
becomes.
Like, it sucks.
Yep. Yeah, I agree. Yep. What I'm frustrated with r- really bad is just I'm not in the condition I was last year for a number of reasons. But I'm just like, and I go out. Last year, I was so motivated during the season to just go out and just smash PR after PR and take top 10 after top 10 after top 10, and I was kind of just addicted to that. Now, like, dude, I'll be lucky if I get a PR on any one of my routes, like anywhere, and that's frustrating as hell.
Well, it
So
gets discouraging too because your PRs are becoming harder and harder to top.
exactly,
Also,
yep.
yeah, like I come off from a 41-mile ride. For people that have no idea what we're talking about, on Strava, there's segments the whole time. On my route yesterday, I think there was 53 segments that I hit. So imagine the first 5-10 rides that you do, you're getting PRs, personal records. You'll get a silver medal for your second best time, a bronze medal for your third best time. You get trophies if you're top 10 overall, which where I am, there's about 10 to 15,000 people that hit a segment, so those are very hard to come by. But you're getting these awards, so when you're done, it is kind of, it's a rewarding feeling. You look at it and you're like, oh, okay, so you see where you rack up. But the more you ride the same route, I got done with the 41-mile ride yesterday, and I had like 7 little things, and they were all like my third best efforts on like lame segments that I know I wasn't pushing hard anyway. So I'm like, man, it
Yep.
takes a serious effort to PR anything at this point.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
it's part
So
of it.
I know we're jumping all around as we usually do, but I want to go back to something because you posted it today about the whip question. And the only reason why I'm going to go into it because I know your feeling
Speaking
about
of
whips,
which,
and they should not, they shouldn't be something that anybody focuses on until they have all the fundamentals down. I get it. I know what you're preaching, but just kind of humor us for a little bit about whips. We want to know about whips. They're cool to look at. They're fun to do. Give us the breakdown of whips. I know we talked about it a little bit before, but I want to come back to it. Everybody likes whips. Give us the crash course on whips.
So to back up, I would say that in order to even think about whipping, you have to know how to properly hit a jump and know how to soak it up to your full ability. So soaking up a jump, you come at it in the transition of the jump. So when you're, halfway up the takeoff, you're standing as tall as you can within the attack position. You're basically letting that bike fall out from under you. When you're cresting the top of the takeoff, basically when your front wheel comes off the ground, you're allowing that bike to come all the way up to your body. So you're dropping your butt as low as you can get it to the seat. You're dropping your chest as close as you can get it to the handlebars. You're trying to absorb as much of the rebound of the suspension as you possibly can. So that's essentially scrubbing while keeping the bike straight. A lot of people don't have a very good grasp of that. They can be in an okay attack position, but when they hit the jump, they're only utilizing 1 or 2 inches of the travel within their body. So they're just too stiff. Where I could hit a 30-foot tabletop on a 450 third gear wide open going 50 miles an hour, and I can soak it up and still catch the downside because I'm using all of that range of motion, all of my body's suspension travel to soak it up. The next step in that progression is, instead of soaking it up straight, you can start to deflect some of that rebound to the side. So with that being said, all of it is done in the takeoff. You're not scrubbing a jump when you're midair. You're not doing a whip when you're midair. All of it is happening on the takeoff. So with the scrub, you're trying to actually basically wash the tires out. The more angle you get on the bike, the more your suspension is rebounding to the side and not rebounding you and popping you into the air. But you're combining the angle of the bike with your body soaking it up. And I think the biggest thing with this, like most things in motocross, it takes commitment because you have to hit the jump 2 to 3 times faster than you normally would if you're soaking it up or scrubbing it that hard. And I think a lot of people that aren't ready yet, they come into it and they kind of just try to do a half-ass little rup, and like a little blip of the throttle last second and try to like do a little butt whip. You need to come into the jump with speed And that's why I say it's a natural progression, because I don't remember a day that I ever just started hitting a jump and be like, oh, I'm going to learn how to whip today. It was just me riding the track faster and faster. Next thing you know, you're getting comfortable with the back end coming out a little bit as you would take off the jump. And then as you got more comfortable with that feeling, then I would start to hit a jump and really get comfortable carving and getting that feel. Now, when you're
What do you think it is? What do you think it is? I'm gonna play the part of the average, or maybe even the below average rider, who wants to immediately get on a track, and I've been guilty of this before in my coming up as a rider. Is you feel when you don't have the swag, you feel like a squid. And people don't like to feel like that. So they want to add a little flavor. They want to add a little style. So let me just play the part of the below average to average rider and say, how do I overcome that?
I know exactly what you're talking about too. And even I remember watching when you would hit some jumps. Granted, your suspension was not good for it. You could tell that you were overcompensating a lot with your body, trying to get the bike to do things that it didn't want to do. I think what you have to remember as a rider, you're not on a BMX bike, you're not on even a mountain bike where you can manipulate that thing however you want it in the air. You could take off perfectly straight and then do a tabletop whip in the air and bring it back. A dirt bike, you're at one with the dirt bike. So if you're doing something, you can't muscle around that 250-pound bike midair. It has to be done on the takeoff. So you just have to have a really good understanding of how that bike's going to react, based on the type of lip it is, how much throttle you're giving it, whether you're standing or sitting. Bottom line, it just comes with experience. You know, I don't think you could teach that to somebody that doesn't have experience hitting a jump. And
right,
teaching jumping is the hardest thing to teach, because I can explain the mechanics of it, but then after that, it's a feel. And I've had students
it's a feel, and it requires it's all you. It's all your commitment. It's not something you can have.
And for me, with experience and with that practice, I can read a jump face. I was explaining this to a class I had in Vermont on Sunday. The jump face was really long and sloped. It was basically like a ski jump style step up. But the way this face was built is it had kind of a little hump halfway up it. So just by looking at this jump face, it being a long ski jump, so it wasn't very steep and it had a little hump halfway up, I told the riders to look at the takeoff and tell me what they think would happen. So I let them all kind of observe and look at it for a second. None of them were really able to tell by looking at it what it would do. And for me, within 2 seconds of looking at that takeoff, I could tell you, okay, it's a sloped takeoff. It's very long. There's a hump in the middle. So what's the bike going to do? Yeah, take a guess.
You're gonna rebound off that hump, and then you're gonna be stuck at the lip with the preload like crazy.
Exactly. So the bike's gonna compress and unload by the time you get to that hump. And if that hump's halfway up the takeoff, guess what? You have another 15 feet of that takeoff face left, and your bike is completely rebounded. So, which is okay if you come at the jump with a ton of speed, because what I demonstrated for them is I came around, I hit it, it's like at speed for myself, which was pretty fast. It was coming up to third gear on a 450 or a 250. And what happened is the bike compressed, it rebound, and I actually almost just took off on that hump that was halfway up. I didn't fully, but basically. And you could tell that because the dirt was sort of dried out and had some moisture underneath. It hadn't been ridden in a while, so the face was baked by the sun for about 10 minutes, but it had that moisture under. When I came around and hit it, there was a dark mark that went until that bump. And then guess what? That dark mark disappeared because my tires were essentially off the ground at that point. I wasn't putting much power to the ground. I had already committed to the jump long before that. The difference is with the slow guys hitting this jump, they didn't know to come at it with extra speed to make the bike do that, to compensate for that jump face. They come up slow and then decide halfway at the jump, oh, I'm going to go for this now. So they're gassing the bike at its hardest when the suspension's unloaded. So can you guess what would happen when their suspension's unloaded and now they're trying to gas it? Now we're just asking for a bunch of wheel spin, and that bike's going to kick any direction.
Right. See, these are the types of things that forget about results in, you know, your supercross history and motocross history and what team you're on. And this goes for anybody. Forget about all the stuff that is clout. This is an example. What you do, what in this explanation and these little things that you pick up on is a perfect example of how a professional is far and away different than just the average person. I think that's a crucial takeaway, especially for somebody who has a class like yours, is it doesn't matter that the supercross season goes whatever way it does. You are a professional because and having to do with your knowledge of the sport and your ability to read stuff like this. I think that's like a really powerful message.
And how do you teach that, though, is the question. Like, teach the ability to read a track. I think it just comes with experience, right? I mean, I can kind
A
of
lot of it's
explain
experience,
that.
and you do a great job, absolutely. But I think that's part of why you're so good at it is because where somebody else might not coach that aspect, you're coaching that. You're telling people that you have to be able to read the track and you have to gain the experience. You have to have the seat time to be able to read it. And I mean, look, there's an aspect to everything that you do that you want to become the proficient at, that you reach a point where a lot of it is intuition. It's being able to read something. It's being able to be intuitive about what's going to happen next, and you can only really get that from experience. But to be able to point that out ahead of time and say, hey, look, these are the types of things you should look for. What you're almost doing is you're coaching somebody to coach themselves, really.
I think the biggest thing is if you don't have that ability, at least somewhat, I don't think you're ready to be trying to do a whip on a dirt bike. Because that's the thing, that's what makes motocross difficult, is there's so many variables. Every jump has different characteristics. Every corner has different characteristics. Even like I said, supercross triples, they say they're supposed to be the same length and be the same. They're just not, because they're in different types of dirt. The corner's different. The jump face has a different pitch. One rut's like this, another rut's like this. There could be a kicker here. Yeah, I guess as a pro, with the experience that we have, we're able to read those things. I think maybe one of the things that helped me mold me into the type of rider that I am, first of all, I've been riding since I was 2. But from 2 to 12 years old, if I wasn't on a dirt bike, I was on a bicycle. I was building my own bicycle jumps. I was jumping things that I don't think I would jump nowadays on a bicycle. Like, all I was doing was jumping things. And so I just learned how to hit any style of jump. I rode pit bikes a lot. A lot of people were complimenting the way I was riding during the pit bike race, because there's a bunch of like steep rollers. And on a pit bike, you can't just launch a steep roller to the flat because you're going to blow the thing apart. I just knew, based on looking at the rollers, the way they were pitched, different things like that, that I could wheelie over them, drop the front end on the backside. There was things I was doing that were like basically like BMX style skills, but because the pit bike's light enough, I could do it on that. And I don't know, I think some of the better riders you see technically too grew up on a BMX bike. Jeremy McGrath didn't start riding, I don't think, until he was like 15, 16, but was big in a BMX before that, I'm pretty sure. Cole Seeley, sick on a BMX bike, one of the more technical riders on a dirt bike.
And Anderson too, I think.
I'm pretty sure most of these guys, Roxon was the one person. So when I would go to local races, amateur nationals, we would travel around with 2 X Factor ramps, so the little plastic ramps. I think they're called like 1080
Oh, I remember
ramps.
those.
X Factor.
Yeah. Remember those things?
And we would set these up, and you get crowds of kids just forming a circle around them. People would show up on their bikes, and nobody could jump them as far as I would. And I'm talking, I would jump these things ramp to ramp at like 23 feet, which doesn't sound like much, but absolutely ridiculously far to be on a
Why do you
16,
know
18
20? Why do you know 23 feet?
Because that was like, no, that's like an accurate number. because that was like the goal, is we would move these things further and further out. 20 feet was like pretty much 14 to 15 feet was like nobody was jumping past that. I remember when I hit the 20-foot mark, that was a a big deal. And I remember I did go a little bit past 20 feet.
Yeah,
And
dude, I'm in a room right now that's 10 feet long, and I'm just thinking of two little X Factor ramps set up.
Right.
3
You're
feet
jumping
apart.
off on,
As a
how
kid,
tall is an X Factor ramp? A foot and a half?
Oh, yeah, if a foot. It's been a while since I've seen one. I would think a
So
foot.
that takes a lot of timing. And it's not like I'm jumping it to the flat. I'm downsiding that X Factor ramp. So kind of scary if you think about it. Anyhow, long story short, long story long, actually, Ken Roxon shows up at Mini O's in 2000, gosh, I don't know, 2004, and is the only person I've ever seen that was able to match me on the bike. And I was so mad because I didn't know who this little kid was. He could barely speak English at the time. And he was showing me up on these ramps. And I'm like, son of a gun. But turns out, look at it, it's Ken Roxon, one of the more skilled guys on a dirt bike. Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, this has all been long-winded, but also I think educational at the same time.
Yeah, no. Look, you just came off a whip competition. It's relevant too. It's not like we're just all of a sudden talking about whips. But I do want. Look. There's a lot to digest in a whip, and we're going about it in a super long about way. But all right, break down whips for me. You mentioned Dakotas only whips to the right. He's trying to the left. Other guys have it down pat both ways. Oppa whips. Let's turn this into just the whip discussion day. What's easier to learn? As far as shift on the left, brake on the right, how do they come into play? Come on, give us what we want. Give us the whip clinic.
Well, I would say scrubbing and whipping typically would come more natural to people throttle side down, so back end to the left. It is all preference, but I think most people are more comfortable that way, especially scrubbing. For what reason that is, I really don't know.
Well, it's kind of you have like a little when the throttle's like a little tighter to your body on the down. You almost I'm kind of like emulating it right now in my chair. It's like it feels a little bit natural to me to have the throttle like close to my body, as opposed to like reaching for it in the other way. So,
yeah, I personally can scrub better throttle side down. Like if I'm doing a big hard scrub on something, I can do it to the left, and on tracks, depending on the way that the layout's flowing, you'd need to know to go both ways. But I can do it better throttle side down. Whipping, like the old school type of whip where you're carving the face and like going upside down type of deal, I can do, depending on the jump, equally both ways. I originally learned only to the left, but I taught myself at a young age when I was 14, 15, just getting on a big bike. I would just whip to my opposite direction until like I finally figured it out and it became comfortable. The appos are a little unnatural. You need, for me, I need a big jump to do it. And it's not something, it became a thing when I was a little older, so I just haven't had a whole lot of experience practicing it. I'm good at jumping a dirt bike, so it's something I could figure out if I gave myself time to. I haven't practiced it, so it's kind of it's
you
not
can do it,
feeling.
and you've done some pretty darn big ones.
Yeah, I haven't had a ton of practice. Where the upside down type ones, I've probably done 100,000 of them. So for me, it feels very natural. It feels easy. So on the ramp going both directions, I think that was part of the problem too. If like, as far as people judging it or people watching it, I never mistimed the landing. I never landed sideways. I never revved the bike in the air. It just, they felt easy. So I guess I wasn't really pushing my limits as far as how big I was whipping it. With the Oppo ones, every time it does feel a little bit unnatural. At least for me.
It looks super unnatural. I remember when guys first started throwing those, and everybody was like, "What? How could you even do that? That doesn't make it." You look at it, it doesn't even make sense. Like even the most cleanest, craziest ones, they just look. That's why they're so cool, right? It's like they look like they don't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
You're like floating up and backwards, but then somehow get it back. It looks super cool.
It's a weird thing, especially on a ramp when you have so much hang time. It's just a little scary. I would love to get a ramp and just practice though. I busted
Well,
out some freestyle tricks I haven't done in a long time. So at least I got
I
some
saw
of
that. Yeah.
my trick
Some
repertoire back.
Supermans. Yeah. That
Yeah,
was
my
cool.
Superman's are actually pretty good. Did a no-footed can, which I haven't done in a long, long time. I did a double heel clicker, like heel clicker, bring it all the way back to the foot pegs, and then do another one. I did a
Saw
Superman to
that.
heel clicker, which I
Well,
did.
that's impressive. Sweet. Nice.
Yeah.
You're a regular old
the-
Vicky Golden.
tried a cliffhanger, only got one hand off. What else? To try to Cordova, not flexible enough.
So you're
like
not riding X Games this weekend?
Wait, is X Games coming up?
I think it's this weekend. Yeah, starts
Oh.
Thursday through Sunday.
Oh, no way.
Mm-hmm.
No,
So,
but I
I
am
think
supposed to go to
you-
Pastrana's house here in a few weeks. So,
Oh, you're talking about that now?
well, I'll just say that much.
Okay,
We'll
keep it at that.
Patrick Evans just left his house, and he was showing me a video of him doing a backflip off the super kicker into an airbag, and it made me a little nervous.
Like the one that's like 200 feet high.
Not
one?
that one, but it was still pretty big.
Okay.
Yeah, it was big enough to where I don't know. He said you can't straight air it. You have to flip it. I don't know if I would just do that. People can easily just say, "Oh yeah, of course I would do that. I just didn't do an airbag." But I don't know. Maybe that'll change. I think when I get there, what I'll do is I'll just jump into the little pit that he has, or the little pit, like his original foam pit.
The street bike Tommy pit.
Yeah, with the takeoff that's right up against it, and I'll get a BMX bike or a mountain bike. Yeah, the don't turn right pit, and I'll do it on a mountain bike or a BMX bike into that pit, because I've never backflipped any type of bike. I think once I get that feeling of what going upside down feels like, then I would be confident doing it on a dirt bike right away.
Can you standing backflip?
Yes. Not in my
Then
old
you're
age.
also-
I can go
Not
off
my
of
old
like if I jumped off something that's 3 feet high, I could do it pretty easy. I used to be able to do
Okay.
like flat ground gainers and backflips and stuff.
So
I
come
understand
back to
I understand what going upside down feels like. I don't know what, like,
Is it
how
weird
hard you have to
that like
pull and
I know this is absolutely just my naivete and ignorance speaking, but every freaking video I watch of people learning backflips on dirt bikes, especially like the little pit bikes into the foam pit, they make it look so much harder than I imagine it would be. And that's probably just me being like an ignorant idiot, but I'm like, the mechanics that some people do, they clearly have never been upside down before or have done a backflip. I hadn't backflipped like skis in a few years, and when I was out in Utah, I was just like, I saw a jump, all the stars aligned, and I was like throwing backflips off it. Like I had never stopped backflipping, so like it came back to me really quick. It's just
I forgot that you backflip on skis. You probably wouldn't have an issue with it then, and you have enough experience on a dirt bike to where I bet you that would all come fairly natural.
I think so. I think backflipping a bike. Well, ask Dom. He could do it.
I think I want Dom to go with. I'd like to get a little group together. Not that I should invite a ton of people to somebody else's house, but I don't think he'll mind. I think Dom would be a good one because, yeah, he's got it obviously down on his feet. He's got it down pat on the bicycle at this point. I bet you he could go, even though I don't know, Dom's pretty good even just hopping on a dirt bike. He's one of those where he's pretty good at everything he does. I bet you he would do it before I would into a foam pit.
I could guarantee it.
Yeah, that's how I am. Like if I saw Dom do it, I'm like, oh, okay, now I got to do it.
Yeah, and if I saw you do something, there's no way I'm not going to try it.
The only problem is Patrick said that there's nothing there to dirt or to mulch that's small. So the problem is, yeah, I can practice it into the pit, but then he's like, then you got to go 75 feet to dirt. I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not doing 75 feet and pulling a Josh Hill. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, nope.
I'll practice at 30 feet into the pit on the small setup, and then if I could get a setup like that onto mulch, then I would try it. But I'm not going to send a full regulation ramp for my first attempt at dirt. Not a chance.
No.
Not a chance in the world. You couldn't pay me any
No.
amount of money to do that.
But you have too much to lose. I don't know. That's sketchy. That's
my
like,
life.
my heart is my honest to God, my heart is racing just thinking about it.
Oh, sorry, I muted myself. Even following, there was a freestyle guy there doing some pretty good flips and like Superman backflips. I was following him pretty close up the ramp when we were doing the trains, and I was scared to just follow the guy, and he actually had him down pretty good.
They make it look
I
easy.
don't know.
That's for damn sure.
I think it is pretty easy. I mean, for a rider.
No. I'm not. Don't confuse what I said before about trying it into a foam pit. That looking easy, and the guys making it look easy who are riding,
right?
Like freestyle motocross. Those guys make the craziest things ever look easy. It's kind of gross where that sport has gone in progression, and we've seen it from its infancy, all the crusty days, all the way to where it is now. It's like, what?
Yeah, to think of the levels like of that. I mean, to think about how good I feel like that I am at jumping a dirt bike, and the fact that I'm afraid to do a no-footed can because I'm afraid to catch my foot on the seat. And these people are upside down.
How about doing it upside down? Doing it, yeah.
Right. Upside down doing it is like easy to them. Upside down doing like what is it called when you rock
cliffhanger?
Solid, grab the seat, let go of the seat in a Superman upside down like that. I can't even comprehend
that's disgusting. That's disgusting. Is it the cliffhanger backflip where they just like they flip the bike, their body is directly straight up and down, the bike's upside down, and somehow they backflip back to it as the bike rotates?
Oh, that's like a tsunami flip or a
tsunami. Is it? Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy too. That doesn't even like scientifically make sense.
I watch those videos in slow motion just to try to get like the littlest hint of what the hell they are doing to make any of that possible, and I still don't understand. Crazy.
Did you hear that?
I did. How'd it go? Pretty good?
Not good. Really not good, dude.
Oh no.
I'm currently having some issues, to be honest with you.
Oh God. It's all those tainted supplements for sure.
Yeah, it might be. You know what the problem is brain octane MCT oil.
Oh no, you're throwing them under the bus?
I didn't put it in the cap. I just poured it into my shake, and I definitely went overboard with it.
OD'd? Careful, Wada's gonna be knocking pretty soon.
Yeah, I had a rough go. I feel like I have a lot of other things, although it has been an hour and 20 minutes.
Well, maybe we'll have to do another episode of this stupid show. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, at least we're not
back in it,
but we're sort of back in it.
We're back in it. And you want to know what's cool?
I had a lot of people come up to me and say that they were glad that we came back and did another one. I had people come up to me at the track. I had people come up to me this weekend.
Yeah, that's cool. We love those people. Yeah. Thank you, everybody, for your support. And look, we took a little hiatus. A lot was going on. We apologize. We're back. And I think we have some pretty cool stuff coming up for definitely the rest of the summer and certainly into the next Supercross season. One of the cool things we talked about doing last year that now we're going to be able to do, and AJ, I didn't even tell you this, that our podcast host site is now doing or will be rolling out a live show function. So we can do a live recording, have people call in, have people comment.
Oh, really?
As we're doing it. So we can kind of do that Q&A.
Ringer? What we record
on Podbean. Podbean.
Oh, okay.
So we'll be able to do a live show. Pretty cool.
Okay. That is cool.
Yep. So it'll live
That's
show interaction with everybody. It is, but it'll be great. I think it'll allow everybody to interact. It'll be, I mean, we did the Instagram lives a little bit last year.
So I can't take mid-show poops.
I mean, no one's going to, unless we record the video, I don't think anybody will know. I mean, nobody would even know this time if you didn't flush your toilet like the most obnoxious person ever. It's like you stuck the microphone in the toilet.
Oops. Hey, real quick before we hang up, did you happen to watch Washougal National? I'm sure you did not, but
I watched all of the highlights that I could in the time that I had, but I didn't have any time to watch the show.
do you have the pass to watch the outdoors?
Nope. That's primarily why I didn't.
Okay, I'll give you my password if you do have time to watch it, because the 250 races were sick with Ferrandis and Cianciarillo, especially Sakamoto. And then Tomac, you got to watch Tomac in the 450. It was next level.
I heard. Yeah. I mean, what do you think? Is it his?
Yeah. So how many rounds are left? Like 3, maybe 4 rounds?
Not many.
I think only 3. I don't know. Who knows? Google it.
3 sound. Yeah, Google it. Shows how much we know.
He's over 50 points up. So that means he can, as long as he's 50 points up going into the last round. So after the second to last round, he'll clinch it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no one's even close. I mean, I know he's fast at Washougal, but we came from like 15th each moto and easily caught everybody. In the first moto, he caught up with like 3 laps to go, was about to pass into the lead after catching up from so far behind, and then crashed, got up, and still won.
Yeah, he's next level. When he's on it, man, he's on it, which is, I mean, this goes back to what we talked about all Supercross season long, was what the hell was going on with him in the beginning of the season.
Yeah, well, now look at all the people having random weird issues now. Roxon, still have no idea what's going on with Roxon because
I know
it's inconsistent. I mean, he had what I would consider a pretty darn good weekend in Washougal. So what's happening with him? And then Baggett basically has disappeared the last 4 or 5 rounds. And now he's coming out saying that he's had an ongoing issue as well.
A lot of
kind of
just really, yeah, a lot of like ambiguous issues. Chase Sexton too.
Do you have a hypothesis? Because I do.
I have one that I'm not even going to stir the pot over. It was going to be a joke, but no, I don't have a hypothesis.
I was just going to say these are all people that are down training in Florida. I just think that with the kind of the heat wave the East Coast has had, I don't think these guys are getting a break from it. They're racing the weekends, beating themselves up. They're training during the week in way too hot of weather. I think there's a time and place for it to get acclimated to it, but I don't think it's like training at elevation where your body can do it all the time.
There's no long-term benefit. That's a really good point. I mean, you know how it is. Like, I rode yesterday. It's so hot, dude. I felt unhealthy. What happens in the heat is your heart beats faster. You could just be standing outside doing nothing. Your heart rate variability is crazy because your body is trying to cool itself down. And it's ironic that sometimes your heart beats faster to do that. But I go out, I'm like, this is unhealthy. There is not enough water you could possibly drink to feel fine on the bike on a hot day. You just feel crappy.
No, I just don't think these guys are giving their bodies enough rest with that. I think that's what's going on with a lot of them.
That's kind of funny because when we were talking about Baker's Factory, and this is a third-hand account, but the message was you work so hard for the 2 weeks that you're there that you almost need 2 weeks off when you come back just to feel better because it's an absolutely exhausting program. But it's no wonder why the guys are so successful, and they're the best athletes in the world. But how sustainable is it long term? It's a demanding freaking schedule to go from Supercross to Motocross, and you don't have a lot of rest opportunity.
I find that that's the hardest thing for me to try to figure out too, is how much rest do I really need? When is too much? When is not enough? Like yesterday, for example, I just got back from a 12-hour drive from Vermont. I slept in my truck for 5 hours. So going into yesterday, I'm like, okay, I was in a truck for that long. I had a really, really long weekend. I only slept 5 hours, so I didn't get my full. Would normally I'd get 8. And yesterday I ran 2.5 miles. I did 41 miles on the road bike, and I went to the gym for an hour. So
Beast.
today I'm like, well, what should I do? Like, I want to go out right after this and do a road bike ride, and I'm supposed to hit the gym today. But there's a part of me that's like, I don't think that's even beneficial. I think that
So
it's
you want to
probably
know,
better for
like,
me to just veg out.
this is good for everybody. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a certified trainer, but that I have been researching, what I've heard for the average person to determine what they should be doing on any given day, which is exactly what you're trying to do. One of like the leading things in that realm now is heart rate variability and tracking your heart rate during periods of rest. So you should wear a heart rate monitor to bed, and for, let's say, if you have the opportunity to have like a week or a few days off of training, measure your heart rate. Okay. When you measure it and when you wake up, what your resting heart rate is when you wake up is a good determinant of how you should plan your day for training. If you have like a resting heart rate when you wake up first thing in the morning of, let's say, 45 beats per minute for like a in shape person, you have a pretty low heart rate. I have a pretty low heart rate. So let's say we're at the beginning of the day, we're just waking up, we haven't done anything, 45 beats per minute, and we see that pretty regularly.
Mm-hmm.
On a hard training day, the day after your hard training day, if you have a resting heart rate that's substantially higher, like, let's say 55 beats per minute, that's a good indication that your body is fighting the recovery more than usual.
What's the variability, though, I wonder, that you should watch out for? Is it 10 beats? Is it 3 beats?
Google that. I don't know.
Google it. Okay.
But this is the
I have
trend.
Heard of that. I've never done it. I think maybe I should just I should sleep with an Apple Watch or something, because I have like 5 different straps, but I really don't want to wear a strap to bed.
Yeah, there's a bunch. I mean, Apple Watch, Fitbits will do heart rate. You don't have to wear a freaking Polar H7 or H10 to bed. Just kind of get a baseline. You don't have to do it for very long either. Just that I guess is an indication for how much your body is recovering. So like your heart rate can increase. Maybe you're getting sick. Maybe you're just really gassed. You did too much the day before, and that's a good indication that you should maybe tone it down that day. But you could do an active recovery day. You don't need to just completely stop doing anything. I have a real problem with that because I hate that term. I'm like, damn it! Like, if I'm going to go out, I want to go out. But even when we had the vegan cyclist on, Tyler Pierce, he's like, you have to balance, like, you go harder on the hard days and easier on the easy days. That's key. But
and
active
also with how hot it's been, you got to be careful too. Like, going out and doing active recovery, even if you're at 115 to 125 beats per minute outside, if you're out there and it's 95 degrees, that's probably not doing you any good either.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
The heat sucks. The heat is tough, and especially on the East Coast and the Northeast in particular, with the humidity, your sweat isn't evaporating, your body isn't cooling itself. It's like I said, I was properly hydrated yesterday, but I just felt like crap. There was just no escaping the heat. And then you're on the road with the tar being hot. Like, it was so miserable.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't fun.
Yeah.
Anyways,
well, this was fun. I
as
fly
always,
to South America on Saturday. We have to do one at least when I get back from there. But if anything exciting happens in the meantime.
Was it the first or second episode we ever did? Was right after you got back the last time.
Yep. So I'm going to do a little later in Ecuador. I think different track in Ecuador, but we'll be back there. Supposed to do one in Medellin, Colombia, I believe. And then I want to say we might do one in Peru. So we're going to do a little South American tour.
How long are you going to be
there? Like 7 days.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Should be fun. Should be fun. Been a busy summer. Haven't had any time off. Allie wants to kill me.
I'm sure.
Basically, I told her that I was going to be home most of July, and I'm like, definitely all of August and September I've left open, and I feel bad because it's turned into just it's getting more hectic by the day.
Yep.
But
And no
my
wedding
argument,
plans.
no, she has, I think, done a little bit of research. So I think she had talked a little bit about possibly fall of 2020. I'm not
Okay.
too sure. Not too sure. She wants me to plan it. I'm like, okay, first of all, I've got a million things going on. And second of all, like, I thought this was something that the girl was supposed to be
She
doing.
might be the first woman in history to ever leave it up to the man to plan a wedding. Oh my God.
Yeah, I will say that that's, I think, pretty cool. But at the same time, I'm like, it's mostly because of her indecisiveness. Like,
Okay.
when
So
we
you
went
just
on
be the
vacation, it took for me to just buy the plane ticket to a country that I didn't even tell her about, like I just bought it.
Mhm. Yeah, pick a
So,
venue. No second guessing it. Just pick one. Done. Move on.
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I think she
Yeah.
was looking at like the Shenandoah Mountains. So we're definitely talking mountains. At first it was mountains or beach, but I'm not a big beach guy. I'm a mountain guy.
Mm,
So I think it'll be cool either way.
same. Yeah. It'd be cool to get. How about top of the world up at Whistler? That'd be a cool backdrop for a wedding.
Gosh. Well, if
People do it.
nothing else, that's where I I would prefer to do my bachelor party there.
That'd be sweet.
So leave leave a week open in your schedule next year.
Done. Okay. All right. So, well, listen. When are you leaving? You're leaving Sunday. So next episode will be probably a week after that. So we'll go about a week and a half between episodes. That's fine. We wish you luck. Anything else we want to send off the fine people with today?
Don't try whip until you're ready, folks. Don't do it.
You heard it.
You heard it here first.
Oh man, I'm not even gonna say it. I was gonna say something about there are Instagram, readily available Instagram accounts that you can refer to for all of your. But I'm not even gonna
I
go
do
there.
have something that we can leave us off on.
Sure.
I as I was conversating just now, I put up a post on Instagram. We are looking for a title sponsor for Red Bull Straight Rhythm this coming year. So I just got the official invite. I have some top secret plans, and reach out to me if you are interested in being title sponsor. catandzeroracing@gmail.com. Last year obviously was a huge success. Ended up second at the event. The video that we made for it, has over 500,000 views. It was pretty awesome, and that was our first go at it. I think this year will be even cooler. So, from a sponsor's perspective, we have some really, really cool things that we can offer. So
Definitely.
shoot me an email, shoot me a message on Instagram. Serious inquiries only, please. Don't send me a silly message if you can only afford $15. Make it holla.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, go check it out. That is a great opportunity, and there's a lot of exposure and visibility for that event. So
yeah, for that event more so than any other Supercross race. So
definitely. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate your support. Catch you next time.
No, that was fun. Toodles.
It was. Later.